Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining. Um, my name is Sergey Lossev. I work for Opera, and I'm a product manager, and I lead an Android app called Opera Max. So today I want to talk to you about Opera Max and give you some context for why we created it and tell you the story of how Max has been evolving and improving to help people save money on their mobile data plan. And after we go through the story, we can have a question and answer format. If you guys have any questions about our most recent update, which happened yesterday, and all of the great features that we released yesterday. So the context of Opera Max. Um, Before we get into Max itself, I want to talk a little bit about the history of Opera. Opera is a Norwegian company that has been in the business of connecting people online for the very first time and making the cost of connecting online more affordable for hundreds of millions of users. Uh, uh, Mainly, we started doing this through creating web browsers. First, web browsers for desktop, then web browsers for mobile, and then lots of other devices. Our main flagship product is called Opera Mini, and its main innovation and technology is a data savings technology that when you enable with Opera Mini, all of the web pages get compressed and the images and the content inside of them shrinks and gets smaller, so it burns less of your data plan. And with Opera Mini, you can enjoy savings of up to 90% on your websites. This literally lowers the cost of how much uh, uh, of what it takes to get online, but also improves the connection experience, how quickly web pages load when users are on tough networking conditions, when they have a weak mobile signal or when they're on a crowded hotspot. So with Mini, we've been on the African continent for a long time. Opera Mini works on all platforms from J2Me devices to Android to Symbian to iOS to Windows Mobile. It works pretty much on any smartphone and feature phone out there. And because of that, we've had incredible success on the African continent, and we ran some calculations and statistics on this for what was the value that we created for our audience and our fans. And we found that we saved a very notable number in terms of the cost or the monetary value of the data we saved for users with Mini. And that number, as you could see in the materials you guys have in hand, is $600 million in 2015 with Mini alone through data compression. All of that was saved by our savings cloud for users. So users literally had to pay that much money less out of pocket to their mobile operators to stay connected or to get more experience out of their existing data plans. So we took a look at this a few years ago and said, wow, this data savings technology is very useful and it's helping a lot of people around the world. How can we double down on this? How can we take the data savings tech inside our mobile web browser that helps people save money on websites and repackage it as a way to save money on the data that all of your apps on Android use? So as people are switching away from using just mobile websites to using more apps, and as people are, especially in Africa this year, are switching from feature phones to Android smartphones maybe for the very first time, the demand for mobile data is growing very, very fast. And as more of this demand comes online, because people for the first time are now watching YouTube or Netflix or streaming SoundCloud and using very data-heavy apps, the mobile networks that power that for subscribers are getting very loaded, and so that additionally slows down the traffic and it slows down how fast your apps and websites load. So data compression and data savings can help both with improving that connection speed, but also lowering the cost. And so that's kind of the basis for, or the context in which we created Opera Max. Opera Max is a free Android application that you can go on Google Play and download anywhere in the world. And when you download Opera Max and install it and turn it on, it sets up a Android VPN service that takes the data from all of your apps and sends it to our savings cloud so we can shrink the data and give you more for your money. So now let me tell you a little bit more kind of details exactly about Opera Max specifically and how we're building on top of the foundation that we built with Mini. So as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of Opera Max is to help more people afford mobile internet all over the world and also have a better experience while using mobile internet for apps and websites on their Android. So to do that, you need to do several things. You need to create a feeling of comfort and trust between consumers and their mobile data plans. And to do that, people really need to understand where their data is going. So inside Opera Max, we have a great interface for giving users reports on where the data that they purchased went, which apps use the data for how long and how much. You can see an example of this interface here. We call this the mobile data usage timeline. And in here, you could see a quick summary of how much mobile data was used, how much mobile data was saved. You could see I used 54 megabytes, but I saved 62.1 megabytes. And then you get a timeline of events with timestamps of exactly when each app was enabled for data usage and how much data they consumed and how much data was saved by Opera Max's data saving cloud. And this is very useful because you realize very quickly with this timeline that shows you everything that's happening on your phone that your Android has a mind of its own. All of the apps are constantly waking up and doing things while your phone is in your pocket or just laying there on the table, or maybe you're asleep and your phone is still powered on. And once you realize that there's all of these trends of apps doing what they want without you being aware, you realize that there's a need to manage how your apps behave. You should be aware of everything they do, and when they use your data that you paid for, you, you should know that they're doing that. So you can click on any app, and you can get a specific timeline of just that app's usage. And using that, you can then connect and manage with these three simple toggles. You can disconnect Flipboard's ability to connect to mobile, you can disconnect it from Wi-Fi, or you can disconnect it from savings, or just one of those, or any combination. So what this lets you do is manage your apps to not use data that you don't want, so that only the apps that you've explicitly approved have the ability to connect. And this is very powerful for avoiding bill shock surprises where you check your balance on your SIM card and you realize everything is gone because some app was running in the background while it was in your pocket. So then, of course, the third ingredient is Opera's unique compression technology or unique data savings technology. With Opera Max, we believe we have the most advanced data saver app available on Android. We do data savings in text and web pages and also in images. Um, but a few other players have this technology as well. Where we're unique is that we're the only solution that also offers data savings in streaming video in real time and in streaming music. So with Max, you can watch YouTube videos or Netflix videos and get very significant savings of 50 to 70%. Or you can use image-heavy apps like Instagram and Flipboard or Vine and enjoy high savings there. Or you could stream music on services like Slacker Radio or Pandora, where Pandora is available, and you enjoy savings there as well. So we really try to target, or we really try to help make data more affordable, specifically in the apps and services that people love to use, some of the most popular ones, and other scenarios where the pain point is sharpest. when we originally launched Max, it was 2 years ago. We launched it in February, so we're uh, just a few days shy of Max's 2-year anniversary in the market. And when we first started out, we only offered data savings on mobile. So we had a mobile timeline, and you could see mobile savings, but you could not see all of the things your apps were doing on Wi-Fi. And very quickly, by listening to audience and fans, we realized that there is a big need in emerging markets to also have Wi-Fi usage timeline and also Wi-Fi savings. And the reason is that in a lot of places, like India, Indonesia, Wi-Fi hotspots are very often powered by 3G SIM cards, where there's a per megabyte cost to the Wi-Fi connection. So you can imagine a hotel cafe where there's a few people eating and they're all on their phones connected to it. They could be 5, 10 Android smartphones, and it's only being powered by one single 3G SIM card. And in that scenario, the Wi-Fi gets crowded and slows down. And with Max, you can lighten your footprint. So you make your own usage smaller, so it gets to you faster, but also you can enjoy other benefits for Max, such as that Wi-Fi session, and that Wi-Fi is now protected with protected by Opera. So you feel more secure that no one is snooping in on doing on Wi-Fi, but also to be a slightly faster experience. And of course, we have lots of other kinds of views. You could see a monthly view or an all-time report view. You could see average enjoying. For me, I enjoyed 52% savings in Netflix. And you can flip through percentage or megabyte units. And then you can also enter the management section, where you can easily go through a list of apps and identify which apps you want to block Wi-Fi access for, or mobile access, or savings. So as we listened to our users and added Wi-Fi support, the next we launched that and it was received very well. So then we analyzed what people really do with their Android phones and the apps that they use, and which apps consume the most data, and started cherry picking the use cases where people burn the most data. And so we quickly found that YouTube and Netflix were by far the largest consumers of data, because they, by design, stream very data-heavy. And we laser focused on that, and we rolled out data saving support for both YouTube and Netflix. And now, as Netflix is going global this year, since a few weeks ago, in January, when they announced that Netflix is available in 130 countries around the world, there's a very fortunate coincidence that makes Max very relevant to people all over the world, as for the very first time they're trying out video services like Netflix or enjoying videos from YouTube. Max is there to help. When these heavy videos are being streamed and burning up their data plan, Max can make them much lighter, 50 to 60 to 70% lighter. So that is YouTube and Netflix support. The next biggest category of usage was music, of course, right? So as you think about when you need data savings the most, it's usually when you're out and about, when you've left your house and you're going to work, or maybe you're going to visit a friend, but you're out and about and maybe using public transport. So you're at a bus station or train station or a cafe or hotel. These are the times when you want to use Opera Max, because your phone is most likely consuming your data if you left it on. And music streaming is very popular, right? As you're traveling from, to a friend's house or going to work, people stream a lot of music. So we focused on enabling data savings in music streaming services like Pandora in the US, or Slacker Radio, or Ghana and Savan in India, and we're adding other services as well soon. And so this brings us to yesterday's update. February 3rd, we launched a new update of Max. And so now Max has a great interface for giving you reports of what your apps did on your phone, how much data you used. You see how much data you saved with Max's Data Savings Cloud on images, videos, and music. You can now enable savings on both mobile and Wi-Fi, and you can now enable savings for very specific use cases that are popular, like YouTube, Netflix, and streaming music services like Slacker Radio. And with this latest update, we also added a core technology change where we've upgraded how all of your apps connect to the Max Cloud through Max by switching to a Google-developed networking technology called Speedy. And according to Google's tests, when they launched this on Android inside some of Google services, they measured a 23% speed increase in how quickly web pages load while using the Speedy protocol instead of the standard HTTP that you see in all of your web browsers. In the URL address bar, it usually starts with HTTP : // So Max replaces that with a more modern, faster, more efficient way for your websites and apps to connect to the cloud and fetch all of your content and news and social information out of the cloud down to your Android phone. So with Speedy, there's not only a benefit of faster loading speed that we hope to measure in all apps beyond just web pages, because Google deployed Speedy only for their web browser and accelerating mobile websites. But we thought it was a really cool idea, and we wanted to see if we can accelerate everything on your Android phone, not just the websites. But also there's a privacy and kind of sense of peace of mind benefit when you're using open Wi-Fi hotspots at train stations or cafes. When you have Max enabled, you know that there's an extra layer of encryption and protection protecting all of your data, regardless of which app you're using. If that app is encrypted or not, Max adds in its own extra layer of protection so that anyone that's also on that Wi-Fi network can't easily get access to all of your data. And we think this is a very kind of strong value to users. If you imagine crowded Wi-Fi hotspots, if every person on that Wi-Fi hotspot at Starbucks or the airport or train station, if everyone was using Max, then all of each person's usage would be half the size, so a lot more people can enjoy the free Wi-Fi service in a smoother experience. And so if everyone just enabled Max, then more people could come on board, and that'd be good for everybody. Okay, so I think I gave you an overview of Opera. We started out as a web browser company, and we differentiate ourselves by focusing on innovating data savings technologies in our desktop and mobile browsers. Then I told you about how we took that experience and built on top of it and created Opera Max so that people can get data savings in all of their Android apps, not just their mobile websites. And I gave you a quick overview of Max's features, a usage reporting timeline to understand what your apps do, an app management section that lets you manage which apps have access to mobile or Wi-Fi data. And then, of course, the savings value of Max is there where you could see it in the timeline. And I gave you a quick update on some of the new technology we just released yesterday in Max to make Wi-Fi experiences more secure, but also all of your apps' data usage more efficient and hopefully speedier with the Speedy technology. If you guys have any questions. I'll be very happy to answer any questions you guys have. But that's it in terms of um, kind of giving you guys the context and the story. Okay, I'm seeing a question from Jean Afrique. Uh, the question is, how many users do you aim in Africa with this new Opera Max? Is it launched today? Do you know of other companies offering similar services? Thanks for the question. We, of course, want as many people in Africa to use Opera Max as possible. Today, we have uh, quite a bit of users. In our number one market in Africa is Nigeria, followed by South Africa. Um, so we think that in 2016 and 2017, we will have millions of users for Opera Max specifically. Opera Mini already is used by over 80 million, 80 million users in Africa. So we're very happy with how Opera Mini has grown, and we hope that Opera Max will follow in Mini's footsteps. And we hope to leverage some of that brand recognition we've developed with our browsers for Max as well. In terms of other services that compete with Opera Max, there are some data savings applications out there. However, I'm not aware of any that is effective as Max is. Max can save you money and data on streaming videos and streaming music, which is by far a larger source of data consumption than just images or text, while all the other solutions are limited to only images. So with Max, you get savings on Netflix and YouTube and Slacker Radio and Instagram, while other services are limited either to web browsers only and don't work for your apps, or they're limited to images and text only. Okay, I see another question from the Daily Democrat in Ghana. The question is it possible for a third party to use the Opera Max app to collect information, legitimately or others, from the user of the Android device? And if possible, how can a person ensure safety of such information? So Opera Max works with third-party partners like handset manufacturers. Opera Max is preloaded into Samsung devices and a list of other manufacturers that we work with. However, when you use Max, you should feel confident in that Max isn't going to identify your name, who you are, to any other entities and send them personally identifiable information. Max does, of course, send some data to the savings cloud, so it can be compressed and shrunken down for you. However, we don't keep or store any of the content of your apps. We don't keep any images, we don't keep any chats, we don't keep any emails. All of that stuff goes in and out of our cloud in real time, and then we don't store any of the payload or content. We do collect some kind of telemetry data on how your device is doing, how your network quality is, which apps are having network connections, which apps are using lots of data. But we do that so that we can present the report back to you, the user, or so that we can create kind of anonymous aggregated trends and understand that Twitter is more popular than Snapchat in Ethiopia, for example, and kind of look through where users need the most help in data savings, and then using those insights, we can keep innovating the technology for people. Not So there's one more question from Vision Group Uganda. The question is, do you need any agents in specific countries, say Uganda? If yes, how do you hope to get started on that? I'm not sure I understand the question properly, but Opera does have offices in South Africa, and we've been present with a team in Africa for quite some time, if that's what you meant. Um, we don't really need anything to get started. Opera Max has been available in Africa for quite some time, about 18 months, I would say. And it's also been preloaded on devices sold in Africa from certain brands like Techno. Um, so you can just freely go on Google Play, type in Opera Max, download it, and use it today on any mobile network in Africa, and it just works. Okay, one more question from Specimen News, Sierra Leone. Opera is popular with young people in Sierra Leone. How would Opera Max better tap into Africa's youthful population? Um, thanks for the question. I think it's pretty simple in that, uh, at least in my experience, young, teenagers and young adults, they tend to use more and more apps than just limiting their usage to mobile websites. And this is where Opera Max shines. It helps people save money and data on their app usage. So, young kids like love using YouTube and streaming radio services and Twitter and a lot of native applications. And with Max, not only do they learn which applications cost them money, but they get some savings, but then also they have the ability to manage how those applications connect and use their data. And I really think that's very helpful for young people. Okay, one more question from African Business Magazine, IC Publications, United Kingdom. The question is, could you kindly go back and explain how to check on apps that are consuming a lot of data? Sure, it's very easy. I rather show instead of tell. So I hope you can uh, see my screen here. This is a device with Max. This is the Max timeline. And you could see right here in the timeline how much each app used and how much each app saved. So let me show you an example. Um, you should be able to see that Netflix right there used 63.9 megabytes, but I saved 76.9. So as you use apps in real time, you can just go to Max and they immediately show up right there, up to the minute, in accuracy of how much data you've used and saved. And then separately, if you want kind of a less chronological real-time view, you can always go to, oops, sorry, to the monthly section of Max. And here you have a ranked list of all of your applications that use mobile data. And here you could just go through and rank them either by total usage, by total savings, by alphabetical order, but it ranks them and you immediately see which are the top 5 data hogging applications. Um, yeah. Okay, one more question from Jean Afrique, France. How many persons work for Opera in Africa, where the offices of the browser are on the continent? So we have offices in South Africa, in Cape Town and Johannesburg. Um, the size of the team is fairly small. I would say it's about uh, 10 people or so. And of course, we're uh, larger internationally. We're a Norwegian company with offices all over the world. We have about 1,500 employees. And of course, as our team in Africa uh, finds exciting opportunities, the rest of the global opera team supports them. One more question from itnewsnigeria.com. The question is, do you plan to have offices in Nigeria? That's a good question. Nigeria is a very, very important and very rapidly growing mobile market. Uh, Nigeria is one of the top five, what we call opera markets. Um, and as more and more content is coming out of Nigeria and Nollywood, all of that video content um, needs to be optimized and compressed by services like Opera Max. So we're very excited about that. In terms of, specifically, do we plan to open an office there? Um, I'm not sure. I think we will play it by. We'll go along, and as we grow in Nigeria, we'll make that decision in real time. One more question, again from itnewsnigeria.com. The question is, in addition to cutting browsing costs, are you doing anything else to promote internet penetration in Africa and Nigeria in particular? Yes, we have a number of initiatives all over Africa and Nigeria specifically. So one of course, we have Opera Mini and our other Opera browsers that cuts the cost of using mobile web pages. Now with Opera Max, you can cut the cost of the data that your apps use, your native Android applications like YouTube and Netflix. But on top of that, we work very closely with mobile operators, MTN, Airtel, Vodacom, and many other ones, Etisalat. And when we work with these operators, we create specific Opera Mini data plans, or inside Opera Mini, we have a service called WebPass where users, as they're browsing through Mini, they're presented offers to get discounted access, or sometimes free access, or sometimes sponsored by an advertiser or brand, access to specific mobile web pages. So you'll get an offer for getting 30 minutes of free Facebook, or a day of free OLX through Opera Mini. And we've used that for a number of services when sometimes there's certain public awareness needs or public safety needs. An example is when the Ebola outbreak was happening, we partnered with Airtel in Nigeria and made sure that there was a Ebola information website available in Opera Mini completely free of charge to anyone that wanted to go and find basic information. And so we work with operators to not only use our data savings and data compression technology, but we partner with them to create innovative data plans, basically, and sometimes they're free. Okay, one more question from Jean-Afrique France. You say Opera is present in Africa since 18 months ago. It means available on app stores since then, or embedded on smartphones sold in Africa. Does it mean you concluded agreements with smartphone builders? Lots of good questions here. So Opera has been present in Africa for much, much longer than 18 months. Opera Mini has been available in Africa for probably close to a decade. We have 80 million users using our browsers on the African continent today. These are active users. What I meant by the 18 months was that is when Opera Max, the Android savings application, became available in Google Play in Africa. Additionally, about 12, 14 months ago, Opera Max started being preloaded by certain manufacturers that sell Android phones in Africa. Techno is one example. And yes, we have signed contracts and agreements with 14 different Android handset manufacturers. Most notably, Samsung is a big partner for shipping and preloading Opera Max into the Samsung experience. It is not yet available in Africa. Samsung started with India, and we're working with them to bring the preloaded Max version inside Samsungs to other continents, Africa being on the short list. And we've also partnered with many other manufacturers around the world. So I see a question. Doesn't say who it's from. The question is, does Max have a significant impact on the quality of the content served? It's a good question. So the short answer is no. The content works just fine, and we have millions and millions of users who are active on the service every single month, and they have rated the service. In January, the star rating of the app was 4.4. So that's an overwhelming response to Max, where people rated 5 stars or 4 stars overwhelmingly, because the trade-off between savings and the content quality reduction is pretty favorable. Yes, whenever you do any data savings or data compression, you do slightly lower the quality of the image or the video or audio. But we've built the service in a way where the drop in quality might be sometimes noticeable. It depends on which website or app you're using, but it's totally just fine to enjoy that app or video, and at the same time you're getting massive savings. So if you think about Netflix, for example, or YouTube, lots of YouTube videos were really uploaded by people, and people are lazy, and they usually upload one version, and they test it on a laptop. So the video that they test is designed for a big laptop screen, and they don't upload mobile optimized versions for tablets, for smartphones, etc. So when Opera Max reduces that YouTube video to fit your smartphone screen, which is 4 inches instead of the 10 or 11-inch laptop screen it was originally made for, all of that extra file size is removed, because you don't really need that big of a video to run on a 4-inch screen. And that allows us to kind of throw away excess information that that you don't really genuinely need to have a fairly good experience on your smartphone and enjoy significant savings. Okay, one more question from Vision Group Uganda. How is Opera Max related to Opera Mini I'm seeing on my phone? So Opera Mini is a mobile web browser. You can load any web page on the internet on it, and Opera Mini will attempt to get you as much data savings as possible. Whereas Opera Max is kind of the next generation version of this technology, but designed to apply not only to your mobile browsing and web pages, but to all of the apps running on your Android phone. So we use an Android VPN, and then once you install and enable Max, you just use your apps normally. You just go launch YouTube, you go launch Instagram, and you go about your phone usage normally, and it just creates savings in the background. And when you want to learn what's going on with your apps and where did your data plan go, you can launch the Max application, and you see a very useful usage timeline report. So Mini is for web browsing, and Max is for apps and web browsing. A question from itnewsnigeria.com. The question is, do you have plans to partner with the media, especially the online media in Africa and Nigeria? Yeah, so Max is some of the best use cases for me personally with Max is using news applications. I love using Flipboard and Pulse and several specific news networks like CNN, for example. And with Max, you get a lot of savings in these applications because they use lots of big photos and sometimes they have video clips. But we don't necessarily need to partner with these news apps. Max just works already. You download it, install it, and turn it on. And where it can, it's already providing savings. What we would love is for African media agencies to endorse Max, maybe on your guys' YouTube pages, on your Vimeo pages, Dailymotion pages, Twitter, your websites, that if your audience wants to enjoy more of your news content for less data or get more news for the same amount of money that they've already spent, they should use Opera Max because they'll be able to read more articles and look through more, photo journals created by the media. Okay, one more question from IT News Nigeria. The question is, at what cost do one, oh, the question disappeared. Yeah, at what cost do one get Opera Max? How do you generate revenue as a company? So today, Opera Max is completely free to the user. In the future, we will explore supporting the service with advertising and a optional upgrade to pay so there is no ads. But really, think of Max as your smart assistant that helps you sort out what's going on your phone in terms of which apps you're using and which apps are using your data. So with that information, we will be able to make a really good guess at what other apps you might like. And as we recommend apps to you and you check out those recommendations and install them for Max, we would monetize that app install. So again, today there's no ads in Max and there's no revenue for Max as of today. But in 2016, we do plan to explore some advertising models. And we think that recommending which apps users should check out is very natural in the context of the usage reporting experience that Max offers. Now, Opera as a company makes money several different ways, where the two most notable ones are as Opera has grown over the past 20 years from just a web browser company, we also got into the mobile advertising business, and we have a subsidiary arm of Opera called Opera MediaWorks. And Opera MediaWorks is the third largest mobile advertising network. So there's 17 or 18,000 different Android and iOS applications that run advertising inside of them, and that advertising is powered by Opera. So applications like Pandora, Wall Street Journal, Major League Baseball, all have ads running from Opera, and that's our main and largest source of revenue. But of course, our browsers are also very successful and profitable, and we partner with search engines to provide to set them as the default search engine option. So in Opera browsers, you'll often find Google as the default search, and we partner with Google for that. There's another question from Jean-Afrique France. Under what data debit Opera Max or Mini cannot work anymore? In many rural areas or even cities, mobile internet or Wi-Fi offer a really low signal. Can you detail a bit? Under what? Yeah, okay. So Opera Max and Mini will work both on Wi-Fi and mobile. As long as you have a few megabytes of data, which is what's needed to load a web page in Mini, or it could be smaller, it could be kilobytes in Mini. But for apps, they tend to be more data hungry than mobile websites. And so you need a few megabytes to go load that website. And what Max basically does is it stretches whatever you have to last longer. So if you have 10 megabytes, you can get 15 or 16 megabytes worth out of it with Max on YouTube, let's say. So there's no specific data limit. It's just whatever you have, we will do our best to stretch it as far as we can. And this does help in rural conditions or very crowded Wi-Fi hotspots in a busy train station, for example, or a bus stop. So whenever the signal is weak and you're trying to fetch a lot of data for an app on your phone, you have to fit all of that data through your connection. So if you're fitting a whole lot of data through a very small pipe or a very small weak signal, it won't fit. You'll get a spinny buffering delay. So when you compress all of the things you're fetching and they're half the size, they fit better through that smaller connection. And so with both Mini and Max, the best scenarios where they help the most are actually on 2G networks and rural networks and crowded Wi-Fi services where basically without Max and Mini or without data compression, the services don't work. They take too long to load. But Opera products really help accelerate that loading by making the size of what needs to be loaded between 50% to 90% smaller. Okay, there's a question from Prime Radio Uganda. Do you have any media kit or press release you can share with journalists across Africa, including those who are not in this meeting, to popularize this app more? Sure. I'm sure after the Q&A section is over, Opera PR staff will follow up and provide you guys with links to our blog post about yesterday's update, and then to several other press releases about Opera Max that we have. And yes, we do have a press kit. A question from Vision Group Uganda. The question is, do we intend to have an office in Uganda? I'm not sure. That is up to our team in Africa to figure out where they need to be most effective to reach the largest possible audience in Africa. But yeah, it's up to them. I'm not sure. So there's a question from itnewsnigeria.com. At what cost does one get Opera Max, and how do you generate revenue as a company? I think this question's been asked and I answered it already, but really quickly, Opera Max is completely free right now. In the future, it will have various advertising models supporting the service. And as a company, we generate revenue from Opera MediaWorks, which is the third largest mobile ad network in the world after Google and Facebook. And we also generate significant revenue from search partnerships with search engines like Google. There's a question from H Text Africa. I've been using Opera Max for about a month. I've noticed that on YouTube videos, my data consumption goes as high 33 megabytes, and the saving is just over 1 megabyte. Am I doing something wrong? Well, I would make sure that you're using the latest version of Opera Max, not if you happen to somehow have gotten an early version of Max. The YouTube support and Netflix support feature was added, I believe, in December, in the December release. So make sure you update and install version 1.5.6. That's the latest one from yesterday. And make sure that you turn on Opera Max. Just installing it on your phone isn't enough. You have to actually go into the app and you have to connect to the cloud. And the way you know that Max is constantly connected in the background is in the status bar of your phone, which is this small stripe at the top next to your operator logo. There's a key and an M. So like up, that's the battery, and then if you keep going, you will see that there's a key and an M. The key is an indication that you have a VPN service connected, an Android VPN service, and Opera Max requires the use of Android VPN service, and that's what the key is telling you. And then if you see the Opera Max M, that means it's being used by Max. So make sure both of those are on, and then you should see significant savings in YouTube. I could just show you, I was watching YouTube a little bit ago, and I had the following. I used 23.3 megabytes and I saved 26.2, and you could see that that was a 14-minute session of YouTube, and I did that earlier this morning. Uh, Good question from HText.Africa from South Africa. The question is, what is next for Opera? Maybe a mobile OS. So with what's next for us is expanding from our traditional core business of making web browsers. We're still committed to making the best alternative option to Chrome out there, and pushing web browsers as a technology and as services for hundreds of millions of people. But we also realize that today apps are very relevant and people are spending more and more time in apps. So we're diversifying away from just web browsers into more app type products. So Opera Max is an example, but we will have more non-browser related apps coming out on Android and iOS in 2016, so stay tuned. Okay, I see that there's no more questions. So I wanted to thank all of you for tuning in and learning about Opera, Opera Mini, and Opera Max. And I hope you guys install Opera Max on your Android phones and enjoy the data savings. Thanks.